recording. We're going to send this out later today. And this is just a kick the tires, take it for a test drive kind of a session on the Copilot new capabilities. Let me stop sharing my screen just for a minute. If you do have any questions, you are welcome to share them in the chat. And before we dive right into the content, which I want to do, just want to get everybody's bearings on what this tool is and how to get it. I know there's still a lot of questions about Copilot availability and so forth. And although I am an MVP, you might think that I have all the information about Copilot licensing, availability, roadmaps, and so forth. I look at the documentation just like everybody else. So if you can let me put that in the chat briefly. Welcome to Houston and everybody else who is here. Okay, Python and Excel. Okay, this is going to give you some information about that. This will give you some information about Copilot. I think there was another link I wanted to share. Okay. Okay, cool. We'll get rolling here real shortly. Sorry for the delay. Just want to make sure everybody's got the latest and greatest. Okay. Cool. All right. Sorry that link came through kind of strange. Okay, let me start sharing my screen again. All right. Okay. So Python and Excel, the biggest news right now is that this just rolled out to current channel, which means that you should start seeing it soon. Now, if you don't start seeing it soon, you can check your build. You can ask your IT program. It looks like if you're in an education environment, you have to still go through the insiders channel. I'll help you out as much as I can. There's just so many versions of Excel and builds and so forth that it can be hard. Individual uses may vary. But the other big announcement, so that came out earlier this week. And the other big announcement here is with Python and Excel. There's some information about, and this is also something else I shared you. I thought there was something about the advanced analysis add-in. Let me make sure I have that link right. Copilot. So now Copilot is still a paid tool. Okay. So you are still going to want an additional license for that. Copilot and Excel with Python. This is what I wanted. Sorry, there are a lot of links floating around. And let me share this one too. Okay, so this is what we're going to be covering today. Question, is general availability the next step? Yeah, it is going to general availability right now. So it's current channel. There's a certain build. Okay, so you should start seeing it soon. If you don't see it, that might be because your IT department or whatever version you have of Excel isn't set up to get that build right now. But it is releasing. It's not going to be a drip like some things in Excel have been, where only a certain percent of people on the channel get the release. People should start seeing Python and Excel right away. And I do have a session next week covering the basics of Python and Excel. But what I want to cover today is this Copilot with Python and Excel. So this takes it up a notch. You do need access to Copilot. That is an additional license. Unfortunately, all these different licenses and plans and so forth is very confusing. I can help you out as much as I can. I do work on this professionally. So if this is something your team's trying to get set up with and you need help with, happy to do that. Only so much I can do in half an hour. But I did share some downloads in the chat. And again, if anybody came in late and is asking for them, and yes, we are recording, I am sharing that again. You should just be able to click the link, download these files. And now that we have those questions about licensing out of the way, we have the resources. That's the best place to go for questions. That's where I go. That's where other MVPs go. So please get it from the horse's mouth rather than asking other people. Let's go ahead and just open up one of these files, take this for a test drive, see how this thing works. Now, as I mentioned in the intro to the course on Eventbrite, I would definitely encourage you to get some practice with Python first. A good resource for that, and I'll share it toward the end here, is my first book, Advancing into Analytics. There are tons of places to learn Python on the internet, not a lot of places that really take the experiences and use cases of Excel users and put them front of mind. And that's really what I tried to do with that book. So as you're going to see, we're going to get a lot of Python code. We're going to use generative AI, which means that it's going to be unpredictable. So if any of you out there do have access to this right now, you want to follow along, you are going to see things different than what I'm doing. And that's just the name of the game. Okay. So my expectation is that this will get a little less unstable as things go on. I don't know if any of you have worked with Copilot just in general in Excel, but when it first came out, it was really helter-skelter. Still is kind of now. It's already gotten way better. Already, you have a lot more control over it. You can expect it to work faster, more efficiently, more productively, more quickly. So I'm assuming this is going to be the same case with Python and Excel. Now, the first thing that you're seeing is that you do need to have this uploaded to your OneDrive. You need to have autosave turned on. You do not necessarily need to have your data in a table anymore. That used to be a rule of Copilot. That's no longer the case, but I would encourage you. You're probably going to get better results with your data in a table. And you know what? You need your table if you want to work with Power Automate or lots of other tools in modern Excel. Tables just work better for most use cases. I know some people don't like them, but I think there's so many use cases for tables. They're hard to ignore. If you haven't worked with tables before, you can check out a recording of a class I did a few days ago on tables. Or you can check out my latest book, Modern Data Analytics in Excel. I'll link to all that stuff and send that all out in the email. I feel like these events always have way more links than anyone bargained for, but that's just, there's a lot of stuff going on in this field. So got to keep everybody updated. Okay, so we're in Copilot. I downloaded the files that I shared with everybody. Okay, hopefully you're able to do those. I think there are 3 files. And really all we're going to do is just take this thing for a test drive. I don't really have a huge agenda right now. If you have questions, if you want to try a prompt, you're certainly welcome to use the chat. You are going to notice that you have your mic and your camera disabled. That's just for safekeeping purposes. But if you want to come, raise your hand, come off mute, whatever, I'm happy to do that. But the chat's a good way to get my attention too. So this is the newest little card here in Copilot. It says advanced analysis, get deeper analysis, results using Python. Okay. All this other stuff is day-to-day, your basic Excel non-power user would maybe use this. And that's what I like to think about and tell people too, is that, maybe Copilot isn't the right tool for you for these cases, but think about the billion Excel users on the planet and think about that coworker who wants to be able to conditionally format an entire row based on a condition. Guess what? Copilot can do that now. I just learned that the other day, that if you provide it a rule, it will go ahead and highlight the whole row, which is actually kind of hard to do in regular Excel. So this is definitely getting better. And you want to think about, the people that aren't the power users, they can get a lot of benefits out of having formulas added to them, getting set up with pivot tables and charts. This is really for you. I'm assuming you're more of a power user than that if you're in this session. If that's not the case, you could play with this other stuff, but this is really for the power users. This is for people who have coded before, whether that's in VBA or Python or R or whatever. This is for people who I would hope have a little bit of understanding of statistics, whether that's descriptive statistics or even getting into inferential statistics or even machine learning, because as you're going to see, this gets really advanced really fast. All right, so without further ado, let's just click the card here. We're going to get a little bit of a preamble. It's telling us we can create a new sheet for the results. It's automatically going to write and insert Python formulas. It's going to answer your prompt in multiple messages. So like a lot of generative AI tools, this is really meant for you to interact with, right? It will give you a starting point, but the goal is that it's going to keep you in the loop and you're going to ask it questions and it's going to continue on in its analysis until you tell it to stop. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, I am using Python in Excel. I have that loaded up. You want to check your formulas tab, make sure you have Python up here. If you do not see that, you can check the link that I shared. You also need Copilot. That does require additional licensing, okay? And you're seeing what's going on right now. Is the first step here is that Python just loaded the data set into Python and Excel. Okay, so we have our data set over here. I have it stored in a table. This comes out in a new worksheet. Let me get rid of this. We're saying advanced analysis. This sheet will include all Python code. Sounds great. This is the first step. You just need to load the data in. What Python and Excel is going to do is just give you a little preview of the data set. You're going to notice, if you haven't used Python and Excel before, the way I like to think about this is that, Python likes to show you the object and then you print the output. And Excel likes to show you the output and then you look inside and see what that table or range name is. So what we're seeing here is that Penguins DF is now the data frame that was created from this data set. We have a little preview here. We are using a dynamic array here. So if you wanted to, for example, count up how many cells are in here. Oops, I don't want count decount. I want count A. We can use the spill operator right there. You'll see that one. Not familiar with that, definitely encourage you to get familiar with some of these modern Excel tools like dynamic arrays, also things like linked data types you're seeing here. When we read in this code block, there's this little PY button. If I click on that PY button, you'll get a little preview of the data set. If I click to the right of that data box, you see things like, can we learn about what kind of data this is, right? We get different attributes. So this is actually using linked data types in Excel. The outputs of this get stored as dynamic arrays. So there's really a lot of stuff that you should know, I would say, before you dive right into Copilot with Python and Excel. Well, there's just a lot of prerequisite knowledge. And I think, not to, push my books too much, but I think they work really well together in getting you prepared for this. Any questions before we continue on with, just kicking the tires on how this works? Cool. Okay. All right. So as you're seeing here, this is actually giving us some suggestions. So, it's pretty intelligent, saying, hey, maybe you want to look at the distribution, maybe you want to investigate the relationship. As you're seeing, this is for data analysis, like it was described in Copilot. So this is not going to be your tool for reading data in from other sources. Power Query continues to be the tool for that in Excel. If you want to get data from a database or from an API or something like that, you're still going to be using Power Query. This is not really a tool for automation. That's really what Office Scripts and VBA is for. Python and Excel in its current iteration is really first and foremost for analyzing data. Now, I know a lot of people think, hey, I don't really do that, but I don't see a world in which not knowing how to run descriptive statistics, know how to correlate your variables, understand distributions is not important. Whatever kind of data you're looking at, customer reviews, ship dates, wait times on a call center, all that stuff is data that you can get a lot of benefit from if you know how to apply statistical modeling. And that's what we're doing here. That's just one thing that Python can do. It's what Python and Excel does. Again, maybe a good idea to learn Python in its broader ecosystem. That way you're familiar with all the other things that it can do. But for right now, we're really just focusing on data analysis. Awesome. Okay. So we do have some ideas here. Now, these cards are even generated for us. If we want to just click on this. In the past, I have seen Copilot just take liberties and run a complete end-to-end analysis for you. It looks like now what it's doing, because this product is changing really quickly, is it's trying to make it more piecemeal and keep you more in the loop so that, it gives you ideas. You can take these ideas or you can leave them. So for example, let's go ahead and let's look at the distribution of penguin species across different islands. Sounds good to me. Now, what this is going to do is continue from top to down, right? Generate these visualizations for you. This is a weird visualization. We have a bar plot. It looks like we're counting it up by islands. So maybe we want to say, don't use a stack bar chart. What other distributions can you use? maybe a histogram, and just see what it does. It's just going to generate the code for you. It's pretty smart. It can even handle the errors if for whatever reason it runs the code. Okay, it's telling me I don't like that. So don't use a bar chart or histogram. If we're looking for the distribution of penguin species across different islands, let's ask for something like, what about, let's try this. Let's create a group bar chart. Okay, so we'll see what it gives us here. Okay. I like that a little more. I'm still not loving this. It just looks like there's a lot of dead space in here. And maybe this isn't even the answer that I want. Maybe I want something completely different, which we'll move on to in a second. So you're seeing that anytime I prompt this, it's just going to keep adding. If you ever used a Jupyter notebook, this is a very similar experience. Okay. So we'll start from here. We'll move down to here, right? And this is meant to really be read as a script from A to B to C. These are the images that are being created, okay? And this is actually a link to this reference. So we're writing the code here. If you want to edit the code yourself, this is the Python code that gets generated. This gets executed. You'll see it in the formula bar. Another nice place to work with your Python code is going to be, let's go to formulas. If I go to editor, you'll see over here that we get a larger canvas to work on the code here. And again, this really does start to look like a Jupyter notebook. You're seeing the first line here, the second line, the third line, and so forth. Okay, so we don't have too much more time. Let's just try a couple more things. I'll move on to the other data set, which might be more interesting than this. If I wanted to know something like, let's get back to Copilot, what percentage of values are missing in each column. We can do that. It's going to give us Python code. And missing values are always a bit of a mystery in Excel because they're just blank. But the way that Python treats missing values is a little bit more specific and exacting. And we can see this exactly. Here's what it gives us. Here's the code. Here's a little summary. And what's really nice too is Python is not the best presentation tool. It's really hard to format your outputs, for example. So I can actually just take this and, just slap a percentage formatting on it in Excel. And this is starting to look pretty good. And hey, if I wanted to copy and paste this into my own work, that would be fine. This is just kind of an ad hoc notebook that Python gives us. Last but not least, let's get more into predictive analytics question about enabling the editor. I believe you need to be on, let me check what channel I'm on. You need to be on the beta channel for that. So if you're not seeing it, the other thing that you could do is the Excel Labs Python editor. If you're not on beta, this is a very similar experience. And let me put that in the chat. Cool. All right. Good question there. All right. So we could continue on with building visualizations. There are a lot of visualizations in Python that aren't available in Excel. A bar chart's not the greatest example. But now let's get into something more advanced, like, can you predict the, let's see, let's pick one of these categories. Can you predict the species of penguin given the other variables in this data set? Now, this is definitely where it's a good idea to have some pretty solid statistics and data science background, because what we're going to do here is use some pretty standard machine learning techniques and tools right inside of our workbook. So it looks like it chose what's called a random forest classifier, which is a pretty common one. It is going to give us its output. Okay, so it tells us things like precision, recall. If you're not familiar with these terms, that's a good sign that maybe you need to brush up on your data science before you get into this. But the code is all right here. So if we wanted to adjust any of those parameters, so now we're just getting into regular generative AI, right? Maybe we want to adjust the split of the test size to 25% if that's familiar with you, or maybe we want to not use a random forest, and let's see, can we use something like a multinomial logistic regression or something like that? We could try that out. So that gets a lot more sophisticated right there. Question about can you enable project-specific libraries? Good question there. I think if I asked specifically to use a certain package, you could do that. If you want to know more about the initialization libraries in Python and Excel, they're going to be right up here. And I saw a really nifty post. One thing we can do here is if I do, I think it's pip list like this. This is actually going to list somewhere. I forget where we actually see this. I think I need to go to diagnostics. Let me find that post from, there's a guy, Owen Price, who's posting a lot of good Python and Excel stuff. And he had a really cool little tip to actually show this in the grid. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll put this in the chat. You all can play around with this later. But again, it's just as specific as you want to get with your prompts. There are other packages available with Python and Excel, but this is the starting lineup, as it were. These are the packages that come available with when you just open it. And then there are some other ones that you can call in as needed. Cool. All right. Any questions so far? We don't have too much more time. Hopefully this is making sense and just, showing you the possibilities. Before we close, let me move on to another data set. This one I think will really open up some possibilities for you because we actually have text data here in Python. I'm sorry, in Excel. And we could do things like sentiment analysis, right? We could build predictive models based on text, which really opens up some new horizons with what we can do here. So let's head back to Copilot. This is the lesson 2 or demo 2 file. Let's go ahead and upload that to OneDrive. And we'll do the same steps here. We'll just ask it to use advanced analysis. We'll agree to the terms and conditions, and then we'll see what it can do for us. Okay, and this seems to be take a second. While we are on that subject, let me just share a couple of things. So I do have some other events coming up. Next week, we're going to be doing more of a general introduction to Python and Excel. So if you want to come to that, you are more than welcome to, and I'll be recording it as well. That one's going to be more structured and introductory in nature. This one is really just kind of kick the tires and see what we get. I hope you're enjoying that. The other thing I'm going to put in the chat, and I'll send out all these links in the email, is I do have an event feedback form. So one of the best things that I can get out of these sessions for doing them for free is your feedback. It's really helpful for me to plan new sessions, to have good data to provide to clients and customers about what I provide and the services and the quality that I provide them. So if you do want to help me out in exchange for these sessions, that's really all I ask. I don't ask for donations. I don't want them. I do want data though, and I want feedback. So please provide that if you can. Okay, so last but not least, we have a couple more minutes here. Let's go to advanced analysis. We will start this thing. And thanks again for tuning in. We will send out this recording. Hopefully this is enough for you to try this stuff out for yourself. And if you want to share something, you're welcome to connect on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Again, this just dropped earlier this week, so I'd say you're probably in the top 0.02% of Excel users if you're looking at this. So well done being at the way ahead of the curve, and looking forward to seeing what you can do with this. So again, all these are going to start the same way. We're going to import this in as a data frame. Okay. If you ever see the busy signal, that just means that this is an important consideration, that this is all being executed up in a container in Azure on the cloud and being deployed back to Excel. A lot of people get bristly about that. Somewhat understandable. I think though that that's kind of the name of the game these days, right? Cloud computing, most things are done that way. There are always security considerations to any kind of computing environment you have. This is what Microsoft chose right now. Maybe there will be ways to, deploy it on-prem or something like that. But for right now, these are, being executed in Azure. And if you're interested in the architecture and the security behind that, documentation is the best place to go for that. But again, this is text analysis. It does take a little longer. You do see the code here. To Alex's point, if there are specific packages you want, you could, in your prompts perhaps, ask it what it wants or what you would like. And this is really pretty smart. So like as I'm seeing with the steps here, I mean, I don't know why we're getting a timeout there, but it's giving us some steps to do. It's going to try to run it. It looks like it found an error. Okay. It's going to try to fix the error itself, which is pretty cool. Okay. It explains why that error might be happening. It's running it again. Okay. And it looks like I did maybe get a timeout. Yeah. It says limit exceeded. I've not upgraded to the advanced Python and Excel compute speeds yet. I'm waiting on my license key, but that might happen. You might get a timeout. So I suspect if we maybe cut this down to fewer rows, I think this is about 50,000. So I mean, it's not the biggest data set for Excel. It's pretty big. We just got a timeout there. So that's another thing to be aware of. We don't have too much more time. So any questions before we close out today? Hopefully this was just a nice little diversion introduction to learning more about what this tool has to offer. And sorry about that timeout. I got to get my compute speed increased. Okay, please say more about the advanced Excel speed. So that's going to be the way this is going to work is that, appreciate it, Alex. Yeah, thank you. So the way this is going to work, from my understanding, and again, going to the docs is the best place for this, but the way I understand this is that everybody is going to get a certain, it's like almost a freemium model. So everybody is going to get a certain amount of data, as it were, to work with Python and Excel. Once you kind of use up that data, you're either going to get like rate limited or you need to upgrade to the premium plan. That might change. I might not have that exactly correct, but that's the basic model that is going to be dealt with here. It's a good question there. Okay, so I'm on Advanced Analysis Demo 3. Let's start this one. This is a much smaller data set. This one is just a basic time series data set. So we'll see if this works a little better just in the minute or two we have. Awesome, appreciate it, Jason. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, hope the books help. As you're seeing, that there's a lot of Python coding getting involved here, so it's a good idea to know enough just to make any course corrections that need to be done, right? Understanding what the code's telling you. In this case, we have a line chart here. If we wanted to, create a model to predict the next 3 months of sales. Again, this gets pretty dangerous because you want to understand what assumptions is this model making? Is this the right model given my data and so forth, right? This is saying we're going to use an ARIMA model, which is pretty common for time series. Probably seems like a good idea. We wanted to maybe ask it to explain its assumptions for doing so, we could do so. And again, we are seeing an error here that corrects itself. It's going to rerun that data, and then it's going to forecast the next 3 months for us. So pretty cool, like there's a lot of advanced stuff going here that we can do right in Excel. Okay, it looks like we are still getting some kind of an error. Having trouble with this Python code. You can try me to ask again, or ask me to try again, or use another prompt. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. It's early days, but still a lot of cool possibilities. And with that, I'm going to close out. Thank you everybody for coming. I will send out all this stuff in an email. Hope to see you at another event. And again, if you can, let me just share the feedback form. Again, this is really the only thing I ask in return for coming to these, is if you can just give me a quick review, tell me what you liked, what you'd like to see more of, what I could do better, differently. And I hope to see you at another one. Okay. Thank you. Have a great weekend. And have fun with the Copilot Python Excel trio here. Awesome. Thanks, everybody.